Alright, match point, ladies and gentlemen. We're spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map. Top of the Zerg player from Mongolia. Give it up for Sioras. And his opponent in the cross-spawn positions of Lerlac Crest, we have the teal Zerg player representing Exile 5, and at match point, one game away, one victory away from qualifying for a free trip to WCS Shanghai. Give it up for KingkOng. Here we go. We got, I don't think this is a super duper early pool, but Sioras definitely going for the early pool and really delaying that hatchery until he's mined a decent bit of gas. Finally has the minerals for it as he powers up to 17 trones. He's gonna have the potential to either be pretty defensive or maybe be a little bit offensive. I really feel like, again, that's maybe the way that he wants to take this. The way that he took the game in the first series that he played versus KingkOng, the way that he won his 2 games was being on the offensive, was managing to take those games versus KingkOng by being the one that wasn't on the defensive. And KingkOng going for the hatch first, then going for, I believe, gas pool. He's going to have almost enough gas for a spawning, or for Zergling speed as soon as it finishes. I thought that's what the timing, so maybe I was a little bit off. Maybe it was pool then gas. But anyways, small things aside, we have a decent number of Zerglings coming out from KingkOng. We have a couple of Zerglings coming out from Sioras. Sioras, though, still waiting on that extra larva. A roach warren being thrown down very, very quickly. And drones coming out for KingkOng. So we got these 6 Zerglings coming out. 2 go into each one of these bases. Although I suppose that KingkOng can probably guess that he's not going to be facing his opponent at this bottom left-hand base. So maybe just taking a more roundabout path. And of course, this Overlord also scouted out the top right, so he knows now it's cross-spawn positions. Baneley Nest is being thrown down, but the Roach Warren does signify that, hey, Sioras doesn't want to play Roach Banling aggression all game long. No, he is looking to go straight into those Roaches. Oh, sorry, Ling Banling aggression all game long. 2 of these Zerglings are going to make their way into the main base, though, and they're going to get us. Wow, they didn't get a scout out on the Roach Warren. They did not see the Roach Warren. They didn't even see the gas geyser, technically. I mean, they might have seen drones mining gas, which is more than enough to see. And of course, seeing Zergling speed, you know that your opponent got a gas geyser, but all these Zerglings are going to be pretty aggressive on this side of the map, but they could just take out this spine crawler. I feel like going after the spine crawler, yeah, might be a better bet. And just trying to put on a little bit of pressure, scaring KingkOng into making a lot of Zerglings, making a lot of Banelings, and then he's going to follow it up with the Roach Warren. I wonder if he realized that KingkOng didn't see the Roach Warren, though. That was such a very, very close scout. He got very, very close to it. And if he identifies that, then hey, maybe he can play to that advantage. But a couple of these Banelings and these Zerglings from KingkOng are going to be able to put on some aggression as he starts to make his way across the map. Sioras looking to pull all of his drones out of his natural. The Roaches are going to be popping out, and I guess he can use the Queen Wall off as well as the Roaches to defend over here. He even has the Spine Crawler available to try and pick away at any of these Banelings and get a little bit too close to his Zerglings. But the Roaches are enough. The Roaches are going to force this push back. Third expansion is finished up for KingkOng, though. So even though KingkOng doesn't have a super fast Roach Warren like good old Sioras does, well, what he does have is a great economy that's going to be following up behind this. He's also not missing out on things like larva injects that were being missed out on, just because, look at this, the Queen's still not larva injecting, which is, I think, a little bit of a mistake right now. But it was because he had those Queens at the wall off, and he's going to be missing out on larva. It's the fact that KingkOng not only has the larva injects that were going off at his hatcheries, but he also has the fact that, hey, he got a 3rd expansion up. And I'm a little bit concerned that, oh my god, why is Sioras sitting at a 61 of 100 supply? Why does he have so many Overlords? That is really strange to me. That almost tells me that he really wanted to get aggressive. He was preparing preemptively to make a ton of like Roaches, and he needed to have that extra supply free, but maybe he overmade it and realized that, hey, he isn't going to be able to have the opportunity to move out across the map. This is a really big investment. All of those overlords could have been a lot more drones, or even that earlier third expansion. And Zergling's gonna find those banelings in the middle of the map. Good reaction time over there from Sioras. Not gonna be losing these all these Zerglings immediately to single baneling or two. But this is what I was saying. KingkOng is gonna start to get a little bit further and further ahead, and still not throwing down that Roach Warren yet, or at least not producing roaches. He does have the Roach Warren out. And that might be the way that Sioras tries to bring this back. He just says, hey, well, I've got roaches and you halted roach production for a very long time, but that timing window is going to disappear very, very quickly if Sioras is not careful. Just because KingkOng is already sitting up at a nice economic lead, and eventually he's going to be able to overtake Sioras. Spinecrawler in the mix, going to make it difficult for those Zerglings to get too much further in. Overseer comes in, sees the layer tech timing, and sees, hey, the roaches are starting to be produced. He might see that, hey, there's not really that many roaches. He's only seeing 2 roaches, and this is pretty much the entire army that is as far as he can tell. And I think, yeah, that is the big cue. Sioras is going to move across the map, and this is a lot of roaches to be up right now. KingkOng really going to be relying on maybe on some good baneling hits to split up the damage. He's throwing out Spinecrawlers. I really like this decision. This is definitely going to be an important decision. +1 missile attack is going to be finishing up relatively close for both of these players, but going to be finishing up a bit earlier for Sioras. Not quite in time for this engagement over here for KingkOng. He just needs to buy a bit of time for these Spinecrawlers to finish up. Baneling's now moving in, getting some good splash damage on a lot of those roaches, really softening them up. All the roaches in the front are starting to dissipate very, very quickly, and with all of these Spinecrawlers finishing up, I think that KingkOng is going to hold. He did invest quite a bit into this defense. I mean, look at this, 5 Spinecrawlers going up. And of course, KingkOng behind, or sorry, Sioras behind this was able to drone up a good bit, was able to get up his own third expansion and everything, but I don't know. Did KingkOng over-invest in the defense? I'm not entirely sure. Ravagers are now out, though, for KingkOng. It's going to make this defense much, much easier, as he has that extra DPS, not only from the Corrosive Biles, but just the straight-up attack speed buff that the Ravagers end up getting. And these Spinecrawlers make it so difficult for Sioras to even try and outposition KingkOng. Even though these Spinecrawlers were an enormous investment early on, they're going to actually be paying for themselves over time. With Roach counter aggression, hey, these Roaches, if they want to walk into the natural, they're going to have to walk past all 5 of these Spinecrawlers. That means that very easily KingkOng can position his army down over by this third. KingkOng can maybe more easily take a faster 4th expansion because he doesn't have to worry as much about defending multiple locations. There are all these things that are kind of opened up by the fact that he got all these Spinecrawlers, and he can even have the opportunity to try and split them up to deal with Roach aggression in different locations, or even Zergling aggression in multiple locations. Oh, KingkOng starting to get up that Ravager count. And Sioras, he's not sitting too far behind, honestly. Sitting up in supply. I guess the big difference now is going to be the fact that KingkOng is trying to go up to that Lurker Den. He's trying to get it up as fast as possible, while taking his own 4th expansion and taking this to the later stages of the game. Whereas we do end up seeing Sioras just sort of sitting on Roach Ravager. He's really, really committed to that Roach Ravager play. And yeah, sure, he has things like Lily Reconstitution. His Roaches are going to be moving a bit faster. He has layer tech and everything. But he's not throwing down a Hydralisk Den. He's going to be very far behind in that regard. And if we end up seeing a maxed out versus maxed out army, Sioras is already maxed out. KingkOng is the one that's getting out Hydralisk and is going to have the more cost-effective composition. He's going to have the higher DPS. He may even end up having a couple of these Hydralisks or the Lurkers out, but he's got to be careful. He's not maxed out just yet. He's still sitting a bit farther down in supply. Sioras has an opportunity to try and make some damage happen. Oh, the Spinecrawler is going to complicate things a little bit, though. Roaches and Ravagers trying to find their way into the third, but that choke point making it very, very difficult for an engagement to happen. Ravager shots going down on top of a lot of Sioras' Roaches, but they're all happening from the backside. Big Ravager shots going down on both sides. Some of these Hydrals are starting to get into the mix, and they're actually target firing down a lot of the Ravagers for Sioras. And KingkOng is going to be able to hold. 6 Lurkers on the way now. And even though both these players are establishing their 4th expansions, It's the tech difference that I'm really starting to get concerned about for Sioras. He is still not planting down a Hydralisk Den. He's not planting down a Spire if that's what he really wanted to go for, although I don't know why he would try and go for it right now. He's not planting down Infestation Pit. And he's going to be up against a very high-tech army. I guess just mass numbers may be one way to try and deal with this, but he's going to be a maxed-out Zerg army versus a maxed-out Zerg army. I don't know if just pure numbers is going to be a justifiable way to try and deal with this. Ravager shots are another way that you can deal with this. Doing some good damage, taking out 2 of the Lurkers, 2 of the 6 Lurkers. But the Lurkers are burrowing in a very nice position. Oh my god, all of these Roaches are taking massive amounts of splash damage right now, even with the Corrosive Bile shots coming up from Sioras. He definitely takes the worst end of that engagement, and he is going to be cornered. This is it. KingkOng qualifies for WCS Shanghai. Sorry, I totally botched that. All right, yeah, we're done with that. Okay, come on. There we go.